Hello YouTube and welcome to Prime Productions. I'm here to help enhance your tabletop gaming experience. If you're new here, I'm a channel that focuses on Paizo tabletop role-playing games like Pathfinder and Starfinder. So, originally I didn't plan to make this video. I had a completely different video to release, but then Paizo put out a surprise bonus live stream on Twitch talking about a new upcoming product. This is in addition to the Paizo livestream that should be coming out next week as of the posting of this video, so I guess I gotta talk about it. You can find the original livestream on Twitch, link in the description below. But I'm going to try and do a brief summary today. And as always, writing and editing a script and doing video editing, it all takes time. If I want to get these summaries out in a timely manner, this is going to have to be an unscripted video without a whole lot of interesting things to look at. I'm sorry. This is just going to be a quickie video where I summarize all the stuff released in this livestream. And to reiterate, link to the full official live stream will be in the description below. So, the stream has to do with a group of NPCs called the Runelords, so before we get into that, I'll have to talk about the Runelords for those who don't know about them. If you already know about the Runelords, I'll put a timestamp below so you can skip to those announcements. And no, this following lore is just stuff that I know. This lore wasn't part of the live stream. Alright, real quick summary of the Runelords. Something like 10,000 years before the current time of Pathfinder, there were 7 super powerful wizards that kinda co-ruled a country called Thassalon. I say co-ruled, they hated each other's guts and were constantly trying to usurp each other's power. These are the Runelords. They were each originally masters of one kind of virtue magic, which was a wizardly magic that embodied one of the 7 virtues of ruling a country well. But they were so corrupt and evil and spread their beliefs to so many of their followers that they corrupted virtue magic to basically become 7 deadly sins magic, each virtue becoming a sin. Actually, they were so corrupt that their evil prayers and those prayers of their subjects corrupted the goddess of rule by virtue into the goddess of sin. That's right, they straight up toxic relationshiped a god into becoming evil. Now, some of the Runelords were killed by their apprentices who then assumed their title, yada yada yada, things were really bad. Then a giant meteor hit the planet because of other shenanigans I do not have time to get into. Now, the Runelords were archwizards who had access to divination magic, so they all saw this meteor coming. And all of them managed to put themselves into stasis in one form or another to ride out this extinction-level event. The meteor hit and wiped out Thassalon along with a whole bunch of other stuff. Galarian eventually recovered, and the Runelords were still in stasis for 10,000 years. So, now on to the livestream. So, spoiler alert, the livestream is to announce and promote a new adventure path coming out in October of 2025 called Revenge of the Runelords. This is a level 12 to presumably 20 adventure path, the first adventure path in Pathfinder 2e to revolve around the Runelords, and the 4th Runelords adventure path overall if you count Pathfinder 1e adventure paths. Spoilers for Pathfinder 1e Runelord adventure paths from here on out. So the livestream was primarily a look back at the adventure paths that had to do with the Runelords. They had several writers of the past and the new Runelords adventure paths with them on the livestream. They talked about how the Runelord concept came about. Several writers used to write for Dragon Magazine, which is the Dungeons & Dragons magazine back in the day, and when the magazine shut down, they decided to shift focus to writing about their own Galarian campaign setting, so they, in short order, shifted to writing about Galarian adventure paths, the first being Rise of the Runelords. Now, I haven't played Rise of the Runelords, but I am familiar with the general plot due to the card game. It revolves around one of the Runelords waking up and trying to regain power, and the player characters have to stop them. Quick aside, they joked that they were so tight on time with the Rise of the Runelords adventure path when it first came out, that they gave the writer of the 6th book of Rise of the Runelords only a paragraph-long summary on what to write. They don't do that anymore.
Adventure 6. TBD. That was the name of it. By Greg Vaughn, levels 14 to 15 plus. Deadline September 10th, 2007.
Okay.
The PC's journey high into the mountains to the ancient ruined Thassalon city of Zin-Shalast to confront Karzug and his minions, which include huge lamias, many evil cloud giants, a few dragons, among other monsters. While Karzug still can't leave the boundaries of Zin-Shalast quite yet, he's still rebuilding his strength, he'll be able to do so soon if the PCs don't defeat him and his minions and then use their rune-empowered weapons to destroy the rune well. Full stop.
That covers everything.
Yeah, I don't know what else you would need.
You wrote a book based off of that?
Shattered Star is the second Runelords adventure path, and it doesn't involve the Runelords at all, but instead revolves around going to their old ruins and stomping grounds and digging stuff up. It's mostly a bunch of dungeon crawls, though it does offer several different dungeons as you go to different Runelord haunts. Side note, apparently the dungeon crawls sell well, and remember Paizo is a business that has to make money, so that's why they keep going back to dungeon crawls, because they keep doing well in business.
But mostly it was just a big excuse to do dungeon crawl after dungeon crawl after dungeon crawl, which turns out sell pretty good.
Return of the Runelords is the third adventure path, and I've actually gone through this one. In this AP, the rest of the Runelords begin to wake up. Some have already died in other Paizo products at this point, but by the end of Return of the Runelords, all but 2 Runelords are dead. Sorshin, Runelord of Lust, has realized that evil really hasn't gotten her much in life and is starting to turn over a new leaf. She's not good, but she's no longer evil. After the events of Return of the Runelords, she rules a new country called New Thassalon with Belmarius, the former Runelord of Envy. Now, Belmarius is still evil, but she's kind of not a problem due to her own incompetence. See, as the Runelord of Envy, she spends so much of her time being envious of others that she doesn't really get down to plotting or scheming or doing anything. She's too busy saying, I want that, I want that, I want that, instead of, actually getting stuff. She's still dangerous, don't get me wrong, she's just not as big of a threat as some of the other Runelords. Now, there is another adventure path that kinda has something to do with Return of the Runelords called 7 Dooms of Sandpoint. That's a Pathfinder 2e adventure path. I haven't actually played it or heard much about it, and it's only tangentially related to the Runelords, but it can lead into Revenge of the Runelord. It's a level 4 to 11 adventure path. It takes place in Sandpoint, which is where the rise of the Runelords started. Now, they did talk about Revenge of the Runelords. Like I said, it starts at level 12 and presumably goes to level 20. It's also a mythic adventure, so it will use the new mythic rules. It will also be an adventure path that comes out after Mythweavers, which is an adventure path that is 1 to 10, and it is a low-level mythic game. So you could run a low-level mythic game and then transition to the higher-level mythic game if you wanted. The big bad of Return of the Runelords will be Xandergal, who was killed in Return of the Runelords twice. Once by another Runelord and once by the PCs, so if anybody's going to come back from the dead, he has a history of doing it. His return has something to do with the War of Immortals and something called the Trinity Star, a comet with black, red, and prismatic tails. They did say that the adventure path starts with the Runelord Sorshin inviting a bunch of people, including the PCs, to a celebration that starts the opening of borders of New Thassalon with the wider world. Then shenanigans happen and the PCs discover that Xandergal is back and up to no good, and I guess you're just off to the races. Now after that in the video there was a section with Q&A, but I mostly don't need to talk about it. There was one question that was useful. They did say that there will be a Runelords Primer free PDF that you will be able to download at some point. It may be part of the Return of the Runelords player guide, it may be just a separate download, they weren't sure on that yet, but it should cover a much more in-depth and in-detail version of who the Runelords are. And that's all for this Paizo Live. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And while you're down there, make sure you like and subscribe. That tells not only me, but also YouTube that you like this kind of content and you would like to see more. And until next time, thank you, good luck, and happy gaming!